So yeah, it has been a challenging year, or 14, 15 months for the industrial gas industry supply chain. To be fair, all supply chains. Um, we've seen, oxygen supply shortages at hospitals. We're seeing that sort of manifest itself in India right now, and how the industrial gas industry is doing everything they can um, to help, these challenges. We've seen large ships get stuck in the Suez Canal, literally cutting off supply chains from either Europe to the Middle East, or Middle East to Europe. And we saw the impact with that on, potentially helium leaving Qatar and heading, heading to Europe as well. So I think these kind of things are forcing the industrial gas industry to sort of ask questions and sort of drive this need to understanding their supply chains more, and sort of digitization of these supply chains. So you mentioned Beyond Tank. 2020 was a big year for Beyond Tank, sort of in ANOVA. We sort of coined our sort of process, the industrial gateway, it's a process and a combined bespoke hardware solution for these applications with our Transcend platform. It's not a traditional tank. Tank is our bread and butter. That's what we've been, doing for a long period of time, and we're known for. But these Beyond Tank applications is really the future. It's the next tank. The reasons that our customers or companies have been looking into these types of applications are, twofold. There's some commercial aspects to them, and in some cases it's R&D, trying to understand perhaps the dynamics of a product in a supply chain before a company invests heavily in that product, whether it be hydrogen or LNG or any of these sort of up and coming applications. But it's it's trying to understand the dynamics of that supply chain, and we've seen going back to the medical air supply, we're doing many air systems in hospitals. So Beyond Tank applications include, understanding medical air systems in hospitals, and, trying to understand flow to the beds, making sure that, certainly in times of COVID, this was, things we weren't thinking about before, but, sort of recent events have forced companies to start thinking about these things. We're doing food freezers, monitoring food freezers, trying to understand and make sure that end users or users of these food freezers are using them in an appropriate manner. PSA plants, you mentioned ASUs, monitoring stack temperatures, trying to understand efficiencies, pipelines, compressors, vaporizers. And another sort of product family within Beyond Tank is what we call our mobile assets, or our mobile tanks. Although they are a tank, we sort of group them in these Beyond Tanks because it is a bespoke solution, part of the industrial gateway, and that's sort of been my focus. So, I can sort of talk a little bit about how that has sort of manifested itself. Customers have really looked at monitoring remote assets for one of three reasons, or a couple of them. It's either been supply chain, health and safety reasons, or maintenance or predictive maintenance on these assets. And when we talk about supply chain, we're talking about understanding where these assets are within the supply chain, going back to the Suez Canal incident, understanding, can we do something before it's too late? Knowing when tanks leave, fill plants or sources, how long they're at customer sites, how long they're at customer sites empty, so we can start to try and be more efficient about it. So that's one reason we see customers come to us. The other being health and safety, which is a big one now, and it's not just for the flammables. We're doing a lot of stuff with hydrogen, ethylene, LNG, but it's also, it can be to some of the inert gases as well. We're talking about 40-foot ISO tank containers with 6-foot lettering, with company branded names on the side of these tanks. And venting can be a violent event, at the best of times. And sometimes if we get a venting event, it doesn't necessarily, end until that tank is empty. With everybody with a cell phone in their hand now, I think companies are trying to protect themselves from these types of instances. So So health and safety, being one. Obviously, with the flammables, venting of that, there's other, it's not just public perception, but there's also health and safety reasons there as well. Predictive maintenance being one, maybe not a major one, but we're certainly learning, as we sort of venture out into beyond tank stuff, understanding how, tanks, are performing, mobile assets, how they perform, monitoring pressure, making sure they're being filled correctly, try and reduce cool down costs. If we have tanks that are, not performing as well as they should, how do we, get them into the maintenance cycle? So, you ask a good question. How powerful is the future of beyond tank? And as I've mentioned, we think it's very powerful. We don't think it's fully realized just yet. It's a bit of a learning curve. As I've mentioned, it's the new tank application. And the ANOVA Industrial Gateway, we've kind of put together to put some sort of process to each of these bespoke applications to, create hardware and match it up with software. So, data is the new hot commodity, and that's kind of all I can say. I think the future is bright, and anyone who's got applications, certainly take it to somebody and figure out how data can help you.